welcome back to Soup. With the final season and wrap-up of Stranger Things, it got me thinking about storytelling and world-building specifically within sci-fi movies and TV shows. And Stranger Things had one of the most memorable sci-fi concepts of the modern era, alongside very compelling storytelling and characters. And as season 5 ends the show, it left me scratching my head a bit, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it also opened my eyes to how, for a movie or TV show to work, their storytelling and world-building have to be completely in sync. And there are tons of sci-fi movies and TV shows that I think do an amazing job of this, not only the storytelling, but pushing the bounds of human imagination when it comes to world building. So with all those ideas ping-ponging in my brain, I thought, why not share that with you folks? So buckle up and let's talk about some excellent world building, storytelling, and how even good world building can even slip sometimes. To get us started, let's take a look at what I just mentioned a second ago, Stranger Things, the most popular pop culture thing in the pop culture climate, pop culture. And I actually want to start all the way back with season 1, which in my opinion is the best standalone season. Not the best in terms of the entire story, but just in terms of world building and storytelling by itself, I think it's the best standalone. And for me, we could have just only had season 1 and I would have been happy with what we got. And as we begin to take a look at what makes this season so great, I want to bring up one word, and that's intrigue. And what I think the best thing that season 1 of Stranger Things does is keep a high level of intrigue the entire season. We as the audience are on the edge of our seat the entire time. And at the same time, we're coming up with theories, but also we're completely captivated not only by the story, but by what the heck is even going on. The Upside Down is still so mysterious. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to what was going on, and yet it still felt cohesive. And in my opinion, this is the best depiction of the Upside Down in all 5 seasons. And when I watch a sci-fi movie or TV show in particular, and I can be satisfied with a we don't really know explanation, to me that's a mark of a great series. Because if you can have a high level of intrigue and not need an exposition dump to make it make sense, it's awesome when it's done right, like the first season of Stranger Things. And while for the most part the rest of the show is done very well, it just feels almost disjointed to the story of season 1. There are so many things that are alluded to or shown in season 1 that we just don't get explanations for in the rest of the series. For example, in season 1, there's a moment where the scientists, before Joyce and Hopper go into the Upside Down, say that the atmosphere is toxic, but we never revisit that, no one ever talks about it ever again, and it just proves to just be not true because we see characters go in and out the Upside Down with no problems whatsoever all the time. And this is just never addressed again. It was just a one-off comment that just got disregarded by the writers. Also, while Joyce and Hopper are going through the Upside Down to find Will, they find a giant egg, which I think we're led to believe is where the Demogorgon came from, but then we see in season 2 that their life cycle doesn't even include an egg. It's like this weird gestation process where, well, that feels weird. Another thing too is that in the beginning in season 1, Nancy and Jonathan get the Demogorgon to come to their house by cutting themselves and like having blood, but we never see that again in the series, and the Demogorgons don't appear to work the same way as they do in season 1. I don't know. I know that they were just figuring this stuff out at the beginning, but it just felt like they abandoned a lot of what they built in season 1 to do other things. And as the show went on, it seemed apparent that the writers were still figuring out what the Upside Down was and how it worked. And each season had like a new theme. Season 1 had the one Demogorgon. Season 2 had the Demodogs and the Mind Flayer, like demon possession thing. Season 3 had evil Russians and then rat jelly monster people. And then season 4 had Vecna and bats. And it felt like each season tries to expand the world building of the Upside Down, but doesn't incorporate anything they learned from the last season. It just kind of feels like disjointed. And while season 5 was a fun wrap up for the character development and whatnot, it was really underwhelming that, I know probably everybody's talked about this, the fight between Vecna and the Mind Flayer and all of the kids. It was so underwhelmingly like easy for them to be them. And there was like no real sacrifice, unlike the end of season 4 with Eddie's death. And all in all, the ending kind of just felt like a disservice to all of the faithful fans who've stuck with the series since day 1. And in summary, Stranger Things, in my mind, is an example of how notoriety and popularity mixed with evolving world building can really make a show awesome, but also be a slippery slope and things can fall into cracks. In a bit of contrast, let's talk about a sci-fi story that's incredible because of its highly detailed world building. World building that doesn't just exist to flex, but actually bolsters and strengthens the story as it goes on. And that movie is District 9. And now real quick, if you have not seen District 9, I highly encourage you to go watch it before you watch this part of the video because it's such a good movie. And I feel like it was pretty popular when it first came out, but it's kind of declined in its popularity, and it's just such a good movie. You guys gotta see it. I'll have it linked in the description. But District 9 explores a version of Earth where a mothership comes to Earth, but there's no like abductions or war or battle. It just sits there ominously in the sky. And inside this mothership is a race of insectoid aliens that kind of have just gotten lost. They end up becoming stranded on Earth and then end up living in a very highly restricted and militarized zone called District 9. And the humans of this universe handle this situation with the amount of grace, compassion, and moral clarity that you'd expect, which is none at all. These aliens are treated with intense prejudice and are stripped of any dignity and reduced to bureaucratic problems rather than living beings. And the film doesn't get away from how ugly that is, it dives right into it. Our main character is a government operative who is fluent in the alien language and is performing a standard routine eviction on one of the aliens from their homes. While he's doing this, he gets exposed to some black goo alien compound, and it seems to have no effect at first, kind of just being like, oh, that was gross, and moves on, but that is going to be a main vehicle throughout this story. And from there, our main character slowly and painfully transforms into one of these aliens, and I mean, it's not pretty. But that's another awesome part of the story, is kind of the element of body horror that goes along with it. And if you're not into that, I totally understand. That's a warning. Hopefully I should have said that when you told you to go watch the movie. There's body horror, be careful. And what's so awesome about District 9 is it takes a wildly far off concept of alien invasion and mix it with real world politics to form this kind of interesting story. And what's super cool about this, in terms of the world building, is that it makes sense. Like if we had a race of aliens that kind of just like popped out of nowhere, the government would probably handle that situation with as much aplomb as they do right now. It just feels very grounded in yet a very like far-fetched sci-fi concept, but it's just, I don't know, it's done very well. And this film balances detailed world building with restraint. A lot of the characters have like a base knowledge of these aliens and their culture and whatnot, but there's never any exposition like dump pushed in your face. It kind of just immerses you into a world and you're kind of just thrown into it, but you have enough context to make, you know, assumptions and understand what's going on. And I don't think I could just keep talking about this movie and what's so great about it, the themes, the symbolism, the documentary style presentation. But at a certain point, I'd just be doing a full recap, and that's not what this is about. So go watch it yourself. It's a great movie, excellent world building, excellent storytelling. And again, I'll have it linked in the description. And now I want to talk about world building that takes an older, well-established concept and brings it in a new, fresh light. And that movie is Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim takes the idea of kaiju, which is, in Japanese, roughly translated to strange beast. Traditionally, kaiju have been iconic figures like Godzilla or King Kong, but this movie takes them to be more of a commonplace thing. Pacific Rim asks the question, what if these things showed up like all the time? What if a giant monster wasn't a once-in-a-generation event, but just an average Tuesday? Recurring disasters with budget reports, military protocols, and international cooperation meetings that probably last way too long. And the sci-fi elements are handled really well, and while at the beginning of the movie there's a little bit of an exposition dump, and you can kind of look past it because it's just getting you into the idea of the world. But one thing, in my opinion, that I see kaiju movies very often struggle with, especially like the new Godzilla series and King Kong series, is that the human stories and human elements are kind of side stories. At least for me, I'm kind of waiting for them to like just get through that part so I can see giant monster fights again. But Pacific Rim does it differently. It keeps the human story just as important as the giant monsters attacking the city. It keeps the human story aspects just as important by making a vehicle, literally, the Jaegers, for the humans to interact with the giant monsters like directly. In like the Godzilla movies, there's never really a one-to-one comparison where like humans can stand toe-to-toe with these things, but in Pacific Rim, that's the entire point. Their motivations, fears, and behavior is directly influenced by the existence of giant kaijus attacking their cities. The world building doesn't just like sit in the background or act as like story A, but it directly influences the human stories. And that's how world building should work. When storytelling and world building are both trying to outcompete each other, you can get a more sloppy and less compelling story. They need to both work together and not fight for screen time. And Pacific Rim understands that balance. The characters act the way they do because of the world they live in, not in spite of it. And again, I encourage you to check out Pacific Rim. I'll also link that one in the description. It's a great movie. Again, like I said, the story elements directly influence the world building and vice versa. It just works really well. And there are plenty more examples of amazing stories that do the exact same thing of keeping the world building and storytelling completely in sync, but I'll end my examples there for today. And let me know some of your favorite world building stories and such. I love hearing your perspectives. And this is something that I've recently found a lot of interest in, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about it because I think it's really cool. And I love just seeing new worlds leak out of people's brains and imaginations and having it hit the big screen. It's just so much fun to see someone else's perspective on like what the world could be. It's just one of the most unique things about human storytelling. It's just bonkers. But thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, liking, or any of the stuff that you want to do down there. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.